If you've ever marveled at how a simple t-shirt gets from a cotton field to your doorstep in mere days, or wondered why a sudden shortage of semiconductors can bring entire industries to a crawl, you've already brushed up against the complexities of global supply chains. Managing them isn't just about moving boxes from A to B. It's an intricate dance of planning, sourcing, production, logistics, compliance, finance, data, and people, stitched together across time zones, cultures, and regulatory landscapes. The more global and digitally connected the world becomes, the more that dance looks like a high-stakes choreography, where one misstep in a single tier can ripple out across continents. Getting it right is part science, part art, and entirely central to how modern business works. Start with the basics. A supply chain is really a flow of materials, information, and money designed to meet demand at the right time, in the right quantity, at the right cost and quality. On paper, that sounds tidy. In practice, the physics of global commerce introduces friction at every turn. Materials are sourced from multiple suppliers, many of whom rely on their own suppliers, and so on for 2, 3, or 10 tiers deep. Production can be spread across contract manufacturers and in-house plants. Inventory sits in multiple echelons: raw materials, work in progress, finished goods at factories, regional distribution centers, local warehouses, and retail backrooms. Then there's the web of transportation legs by air, sea, rail, and road, each with capacity constraints, scheduling cycles, and price volatility. And binding it together is information: demand signals from markets, production schedules, shipment tracking, quality data, and financial flows, all of which need to be timely and accurate if the network is going to run smoothly. One of the first big challenges is designing the network itself. Where do you place factories and warehouses? How many do you need? Do you ship via ocean to save cost or via air to win on speed? Do you centralize inventory to gain economies of scale or decentralize to be closer to customers and reduce lead times? These aren't static decisions. Trade policies change, fuel prices swing, customers shift channels, and new technologies reshape what's possible. Companies run network design models to minimize total landed cost while meeting service targets, but they increasingly include measures of resilience, how the network will behave under stress. If a key port shuts down, if a country imposes sanctions, if a pandemic halts labor in a region, what's the time to recover and the time the market can survive without supply? Building redundancy, extra capacity, dual sourcing, safety stock is like buying insurance. It's not free, and balancing efficiency against resilience is one of the defining tensions in modern supply chain management. Forecasting demand is another perennial knot. Customer demand isn't static. It's seasonal, promotional, trend-driven, and vulnerable to sudden shocks. A well-meaning promotion in one region, a viral post on social media, or an unexpected competitor move can throw off the smoothest plan. Without careful management, these fluctuations can trigger the bullwhip effect. Slight changes in retail demand translate into large oscillations in orders upstream, as each tier adds buffers to protect itself. The antidote is better visibility and tighter collaboration between functions and partners. Sales and operations planning, and its more holistic cousin, integrated business planning, aims to align demand forecasts, supply capabilities, and financial targets on a rolling monthly cadence. It forces frank conversations. If the latest forecast is up 20%, can the plant ramp in time? Do we have the labor, air suppliers ready? And what does that mean for cash and margins? Success often hinges as much on culture and governance as on algorithms. Fancy predictive models won't help if marketing and supply chain can't agree to a single set of numbers. Inventory strategy sits right on the seam between planning and execution. Hold too little and you miss sales. Hold too much and you tie up cash and risk obsolescence. Add multiple echelons and things get complicated fast. Multi-echelon inventory optimization techniques try to determine where to place stock and how much safety stock to hold, taking into account variability in demand and lead times. The goal isn't just to minimize stock levels, it's to optimize service levels at the lowest total cost across the network. Decisions about decoupling points, where you hold inventory in a more generic form before final configuration, can radically change performance. Postponement strategies, for instance, allow you to customize products later, closer to demand, reducing the risk of stocking the wrong variant. It's especially useful in environments with high product variety and uncertain demand, but it requires thoughtful product design to be workable. Supplier management is another arena of complexity. Companies rarely manufacture everything themselves. They rely on first-tier suppliers, who in turn rely on their own networks. You need to segment suppliers because not every vendor warrants the same level of attention. A commodity office supply vendor is different from a sole-source specialty chip maker. Category management practices and tools like the Kraljic matrix help prioritize supplier relationships based on risk and impact. Strategies range from transactional sourcing to strategic partnerships with supplier development. Dual sourcing reduces risk but can dilute economies of scale and complicate quality management. Single sourcing can deepen collaboration and lower cost, but it raises concentration risk. Beyond performance and price, companies now evaluate suppliers for sustainability, human rights, and resilience, driven by regulation and consumer expectations. Mapping sub-tier suppliers is critical, albeit difficult. When a disaster strikes, not knowing that a seemingly unrelated subcomponent comes from a single factory is how disruptions catch you flat-footed. Risk itself deserves its own spotlight. The last few years have showcased how fragile even well-run networks can be. A pandemic shutters factories, a ship blocks a canal, geopolitical tensions lead to sudden tariffs and sanctions, a drought closes a ship channel, or wildfires disrupt logistics corridors. The risk portfolio also includes cyber attacks on logistics providers, labor strikes at ports, cargo theft in hotspots, and quality failures that trigger recalls. Managing these risks isn't just about a risk register. It's dynamic. You want to continuously scan, model, and prepare. Companies are embracing stress testing their supply chains, scenario planning, and defining clear playbooks. They're tracking resilience metrics like time to recover and time to survive. They're diversifying geographically through multi-region sourcing, nearshoring, and China Plus One strategies. And they're building flexible capacity, whether via contract manufacturing, modular production lines, or third-party logistics partnerships that can scale up or down. The logistics layer is where the rubber literally meets the road, and it's a world of constraints and coordination. Ocean shipping is cost-effective for heavy, non-urgent goods, but it's subject to long transit times, blank sailings, port congestion, and container imbalances. Air freight is fast but expensive and carbon-intensive, sensitive to fuel prices and aircraft capacity. Rail and intermodal can offer a good balance in certain corridors, while trucking is the backbone for most last-mile moves, yet it faces driver shortages, regulations on hours of service, and fluctuating spot rates. Selecting modes, lanes, and carriers is a continuous optimization problem, informed by service-level needs, capacity, weather, geopolitical risks, and sustainability goals. Freight procurement blends contracts for stability with spot buying for flexibility. The details matter. Incoterms define who owns the risk and cost at each stage. Customs brokers and freight forwarders become vital partners, and documentation accuracy stands between you and costly delays, demurrage, or fines. Compliance with trade regulations introduces another layer of complexity. Global supply chains cross borders, which means dealing with tariffs, free trade agreements, rules of origin, sanctioned party screenings, and product-specific requirements like safety certifications. Leveraging free trade agreements can cut costs, but it demands precise documentation and sometimes changes in sourcing or manufacturing to meet origin thresholds. Duty drawback and bonded warehouses can improve cash flow by deferring or recovering duties. Some firms use foreign trade zones to add flexibility for re-exporting. Meanwhile, regulations are tightening around ethical sourcing and sustainability. Legislation like forced labor prevention acts, conflict minerals rules, hazardous substance restrictions, and emerging carbon border mechanisms require traceability deep into the chain. These aren't soft requirements anymore. Failing them can mean shipments seized, products banned, or reputational damage that's expensive to repair. Technology is both the glue and the engine that makes modern supply chains manageable. Enterprise resource planning systems provide a backbone for transactions, while specialized systems handle planning, warehousing, transportation, order management, and product lifecycle data. The real evolution is in connecting these systems and making data visible, timely, and usable. Application programming interfaces complement older electronic data interchange standards to exchange information quickly with partners. GS1 standards enable consistent identification and traceability. IoT sensors and RFID tags give real-time insights into location, temperature, and condition, crucial for cold chains or high-value goods. Digital twins of the supply chain allow companies to simulate scenarios and stress test decisions before executing them. Machine learning enhances forecasts by factoring in external signals like weather, events, and search trends, and it can detect anomalies that indicate a shipment is at risk. Control tower platforms promise end-to-end visibility and coordinated response, though they require good data quality and process discipline to deliver on the promise. Yet even with cutting-edge tech, execution still hinges on fundamentals. Warehouses rely on slotting strategies to place fast-moving items for quick access, automated storage and retrieval systems to improve throughput, and pick methods tailored to order profiles. Robots and autonomous mobile units are advancing quickly, helping to offset labor shortages and improve safety, but they require careful integration and change management. Cross-docking reduces dwell time by moving inbound goods directly to outbound doors, while consolidation programs, milk runs, and dynamic routing improve load utilization. Packaging engineers work to right-size boxes, not just to save material, but to optimize cube utilization and reduce transportation emissions. Last-mile logistics is its own ecosystem, shaped by e-commerce and omni-channel retail. Competing on convenience means enabling options like buy online pickup in-store, same-day delivery, or locker pickup, all of which complicate order orchestration and inventory visibility. The last mile is typically the costliest and most carbon-intensive segment, and companies experiment with micro-fulfillment centers, crowdsourced delivery, and urban consolidation to tackle it. Product design and supply chain design are two sides of the same coin. Decisions made early in the product lifecycle lock in much of the cost, risk, and sustainability profile of the supply chain. Designing for manufacturability and assembly reduces complexity on the factory floor. Designing for logistics considers whether a product nests, stacks, or can be flat-packed to maximize shipping efficiency. Modularity supports postponement and repair, enabling circular economy models where products are refurbished, remanufactured, or recycled. Traceability built into design enables serialization and faster recalls if needed. Cross-functional governance, getting engineering, procurement, quality, manufacturing, and logistics in the same room pays dividends, especially when launching new products where uncertainty is highest. Quality management can make or break trust with customers. Zero defects is aspirational. What matters is robust prevention and fast containment. Lean and Six Sigma practices, statistical process control, and supplier quality audits reduce defects. When problems do occur, having clear recall procedures and traceability systems reduces harm and cost. In regulated industries like pharmaceuticals and medical devices, good distribution practices, temperature monitoring, and controlled handling are not optional. The cold chain brings its own complexity, from validated packaging to real-time monitoring, with specific failure modes like temperature excursions that can spoil entire lots. Food supply chains face similar challenges with shelf life and safety, requiring strict hygiene and traceability to handle recalls quickly. Finance threads through all of this. The cash-to-cash cycle, days inventory outstanding plus days sales outstanding minus days payables outstanding, summarizes how effectively a company converts investments into cash. Decisions about inventory levels and payment terms ripple into working capital. Total cost to serve matters more than unit price. A cheap supplier with long lead times and high defect rates can be more expensive than a pricier but reliable partner. Transfer pricing and tax considerations affect where value is recorded and how flows are structured. Currency volatility and commodity prices introduce risk. Hedging strategies can smooth shocks but require governance. On the customer side, service commitments and penalties, credits for late deliveries, and returns policies influence profitability and behavior. Returns themselves can be surprisingly costly in e-commerce, and reverse logistics requires its own playbook. Inspecting, refurbishing, restocking, or recycling to recapture value and minimize waste. People are the connective tissue that keeps supply chains working. Despite automation and AI, the need for skilled planners, savvy negotiators, operations leaders, data analysts, and logistics professionals has grown. These roles are collaborative by nature. Cultural fluency matters when working across regions. Ethics matter when navigating gray areas in countries with different norms around facilitation payments or gift-giving. Safety is paramount in warehouses, factories, and transport operations. Building a performance culture means clear metrics: on time, in full, perfect order rate, forecast accuracy, overall equipment effectiveness, and inventory turns, paired with accountability and continuous improvement. But it also means investing in training, clear career paths, and frontline empowerment to solve problems quickly. Sustainability is no longer a side project. Stakeholders are pushing for transparency and reductions in carbon, water, waste, and unethical labor practices. Scope 3 emissions, those generated in the supply chain, often dwarf a company's direct footprint, making supplier engagement essential. Companies are mapping emissions, setting science-based targets, and looking for levers, shifting modes from air to ocean or rail where feasible, optimizing loads, using alternative fuels like sustainable aviation fuel or biofuels, adopting electric vehicles for short haul, and rethinking packaging. Circular models: repair, refurbish, remanufacture, and recycle, extend product life cycles and reduce virgin material demand. Regulations add teeth, with reporting requirements and import restrictions tied to carbon or labor practices. Compliance is intertwined with sustainability performance. The tricky part is balancing cost, service, and emissions, and being honest about trade-offs. Sometimes the greenest option is slower. Sometimes customers will accept it if you design the experience well and clearly communicate the benefit. Data may be the new oil, but in supply chains it can also be the new sand in the gears if it's inconsistent or siloed. Master data management is foundational. Clean product, customer, supplier, and location data is needed for everything from planning to analytics. Real-time visibility into shipments is valuable only if the ETAs are accurate and exceptions are flagged early enough to act. Partner integration must be reliable, which means agreeing on data standards and keeping systems in sync, despite inevitable changes. Cybersecurity becomes critical as more devices and partners connect. A breach in a supplier's system can expose your network. As companies deploy AI to automate tasks like forecast generation, dynamic safety stock settings, and anomaly detection in logistics, governance is needed to manage bias, monitor performance, and ensure decisions remain explainable and auditable. The most sophisticated organizations blend human judgment and machine intelligence, using AI to surface options and risks while keeping humans in the loop for context and trade-offs. Collaboration models help tame complexity. With vendor-managed inventory, suppliers monitor stock and replenish directly, reducing stockouts and freeing up the buyer's planning capacity. Collaborative planning, forecasting, and replenishment seeks alignment on forecasts and promotional plans to reduce surprises. But these approaches require trust and data sharing, and they work best when incentives are aligned. Performance-based contracts and shared savings agreements can encourage the right behavior, but they require careful design to avoid unintended consequences. Third-party logistics providers offer expertise, assets, and scale that many shippers can't economically build in-house. A 3PL might run a warehouse or manage transportation. A 4PL or lead logistics provider can orchestrate multiple 3PLs, providing a single interface and a control tower function. Choosing the right partners and setting up clear service-level agreements, governance, and continuous improvement mechanisms is as important as selecting the right technology. Geopolitics and macroeconomics exert a constant gravitational pull on supply chains. Trade disputes, sanctions, and changing political alliances can render a network obsolete overnight. Currency swings, inflation, and interest rates influence costs and working capital. Labor markets tighten or loosen, affecting the availability of drivers, warehouse workers, and skilled technicians. Infrastructure investments or bottlenecks, new rail links, congested ports, or closed bridges reshape route economics. In this landscape, agility is a competitive advantage. Companies that build sensing capabilities, diversify thoughtfully, and institutionalize quick decision-making can pivot faster. Scenario planning isn't a one-off exercise. It's part of the operating rhythm, updating assumptions and plans as signals change. Sector specifics can't be ignored. Automotive supply chains are complex and just-in-time, making them sensitive to disruptions. Semiconductors revealed how a shortage in one component can idle entire plants. Consumer electronics face rapid product cycles and intense seasonality, with huge demand spikes around holidays. Apparel deals with long lead times, fashion volatility, and high return rates in e-commerce. Food and beverage juggle perishability and safety. Pharmaceuticals must assure quality and compliance at every step, with precise cold chain controls. Chemicals and hazardous materials require specialized handling and documentation. Tailoring processes, risks, and investments to the realities of the sector is essential. There is no one-size-fits-all blueprint. Amid all this complexity, simple principles remain surprisingly powerful. Shortening lead times, wherever possible, reduces the need for forecasts to be perfect and shrinks the bullwhip. Standardizing components and processes where it doesn't hurt. Differentiation increases flexibility and reduces costs. Clear ownership and accountability prevent tasks from falling through cracks. Visible management and tiered daily huddles surface issues early and drive fast problem solving. Continuous improvement culture pays compound interest. Small daily fixes add up to major performance gains over time. And transparency, telling the truth about what's working and what isn't, builds trust with customers, partners, and employees. Looking ahead, the supply chain field is set to remain both challenging and exciting. Automation will continue to advance, with smarter robots, more capable autonomous vehicles, and increasingly self-optimizing networks. Additive manufacturing will expand beyond prototyping into more spare parts and niche production, bringing supply closer to demand and reshaping spare parts logistics. Sustainability pressures will grow, pushing stronger collaboration across industries to solve problems that no single company can tackle alone, like alternative fuel adoption and standardized product passports for traceability. Regulatory complexity will likely intensify, encouraging investment in compliance technology and expertise. Data will become even more granular and real-time, but the winners will be those who translate it into better decisions, not just dashboards. If there's a single thread that ties together the complexities of managing global supply chains and logistics, it's the constant balancing act between cost and service, efficiency and resilience, standardization and customization, centralization and localization, speed and sustainability, automation and human judgment. The best supply chain leaders don't pretend these trade-offs go away. They build organizations, partnerships, and systems that make these decisions explicit, data-informed, and aligned with strategy. They accept that uncertainty is a feature, not a bug, and design for it. And they remember that, at the end of the day, the purpose of the chain is to serve customers reliably, responsibly, and competitively. If you can keep that purpose in focus while navigating the maze, you'll be a long way toward mastering the art and science of global supply chain management.